Welcome to Capital Review with State Representative Paul Gardner. I'm Mike Howard. Representative, thanks for coming in the studio during the mid-session point here of the 2010 session.
Yes, we've lost the ties, Mike. And may I say, I've really been impressed with the opening music, too. I've watched these things. It's very
constantly improving, working on the show.
It's very good.
Very good. Well, yes, this is April 1st, the day we're recording this show, and we've just went about 6 weeks into the session, and so I think this show and then the next will kind of tick off the items that you folks have already debated, went together on it, and passed into law or are about to pass into law. And a big part of that is jobs. Let's start there.
Sure. Actually, a lot of Capitol observers are a little surprised at the lack of drama. In actually 7 weeks, we have taken the budget bill by the horns, but we've also been focused very much on what we can do to help spur job growth in the state. There's a couple ways you can do it. On the spending side, we've talked in previous shows about the bonding bill. Even with the governor's line item vetoes, we're looking at 15,000, 16,000 people in the building trades in particular, engineers, architects, and the like, who will be able to have some work that they didn't have otherwise to upgrade a lot of our public facilities and public buildings that needed work anyway. The second part of our jobs strategy was to focus on the tax incentive side. And what we did put through last week, in which the governor indicated he will sign, is what's called an angel investor tax credit. This is designed to attract venture capitalists from outside Minnesota to invest in our emerging businesses that have a chance to go really big. There's obviously a high failure rate with venture capitalism, but there's always the chance that you can have the next Medtronic, the next 3M emerge out of somebody's garage thanks to that tax credit. There also was a historic structures rehabilitation credit to actually rehab an old building and to gut it and to make it into a usable building. Is somewhat costly, and it also is very labor intensive. And so in other states, that kind of tax credit actually has helped a lot of those older buildings get rehabbed and reused, which is a good thing. And they also are upgraded for energy improvement and so on. So that's a positive in many different ways. But it's very labor intensive. There's a lot of craftsmanship that has to go on with a lot of these older buildings. And so there are people with particular types of skills that they're looking for, which for those projects. So that's a very positive thing. We think that could help lead to the creation of about 10,000 jobs also. So we're looking at about 25,000, 30,000 jobs that we can account for either on the spending side or the tax side. And so those are good things.
Clearly with the tax reform package, I mean, there's all kinds of different items in there, and largely this was a bipartisan bill kind of recognizing the need to improve the business climate here in the state.
And Representative Denise Dietrich from Champlin also headed up the Small Business Caucus. I wasn't able to make too many of the meetings, but she actually worked with people across the aisle, hearing from small businesses. There was a survey sent out statewide that people could fill out to tell us what issues would make it easier for small businesses, rather than certainly we've heard a lot about banks and auto companies and things like that at the national level. What about the family-owned business, the small business? And Representative Dietrich did a very good job in hearing from state agencies that work with small businesses like DEED, or Department of Economic and Employment Development, or Employment and Economic Development. They actually work a lot with some of our manufacturers and others to figure out ways that businesses can get started or expand here in the state of Minnesota. And so we've got some legislation coming forth that would just cut the red tape, essentially. And those are things we're going to have to keep working on.
So with the first 6 weeks of the three bills that you mentioned, capital investment bonding bill, the jobs part 2 with the tax reform, and then also the small business agenda, it's clear that jobs and the economy were kind of center stage here.
Yeah, well, certainly the private sector is the source of the most jobs, but there are things that government could do either to get out of the way or get involved to help spur job development in either new and emerging industries, or simply just make the processes that we create for businesses a lot simpler to cut the red tape. So I think those are positive developments, and I think there's some opportunities to do more.
Well, Representative, thanks for coming in, and I think we'll spend some time talking about the other legislative accomplishments of the first 6 weeks coming up here.
Very good. Maybe we'll change places for the next one. But
Switch sides, yeah.
yeah,
This
thanks
is Capital
everybody.
Review. Thanks.